Started. We want to thank you all to our webinar today on CMMC 2.0 compliance and the fact that it need not be difficult or costly. A lot of obviously attention towards this today as the rule continues to roll forward, and really with the expectations that this process officially will begin middle part of next year. So I want to welcome everyone to the session. We're going to go into the agenda briefly here and let you know what we'll be discussing today. First, I'm going to do introductions to the presenters. We'll then go into a little bit of the overview of CMMC 2.0 and NIST 800-171, kind of what you need to know. And clearly, if you are at a point of really being in good shape with NIST 800-171, you should be in decent shape to be ready for this audit. And then we'll go into what that assessment is going to look like down the line. We'll talk a little bit about how Digital Beachhead, one of our presenters and partners here, can help you get prepared for that, how SureShield helps a bit. And then also at the end of the session, we will conduct a Q&A. Please direct any of those questions to the Zoom portion of the Zoom application. Also note that we will be providing you all with the content of this presentation, as well as a recording of this video. So if we could go on to the next slide. I want to introduce the folks who are presenting today. I'm Tom Leahy. I'm the SVP of Sales and Business Development with SureShield. But really, we're excited and appreciate having Mike Crandall, the CEO of Digital Beachhead, present today. Just to give a little background on Mike, he's a 21-year Air Force veteran and, of course, the CEO of Digital Beachhead. He was a founding member of the DoD's Cyber Defense and Depth Barrier Reef concept, which ultimately became the Combat Information Transport System. And he had led a team that developed and implemented the first DoD Network Operations and Security Center. So, and also Mike's company was one of the first candidate C3PAOs. His company is in the process of finalizing that as well. So you're really going to hear from some experts today that are very familiar with this process, that have done some very intense security work within the DoD, and ultimately can help you get prepared for that. So Mike, I appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, thank everybody for coming and spending some time with us today. I'm Mike. As said, I've been doing this quite a while with the federal government, specifically the Department of Defense. So why did the DoD decide we need CMMC and NIST compliance? Effectively, with DFARS Clause 252, 204, 70, 12, they really went to trying to protect the controlled unclassified information. That was kind of their original mindset. However, it is really about supply chain management and making sure that those organizations, the part of the defense industry base, the DIB, that work with the Department of Defense, have a standard or a baseline to which they can be scored. We've, for years now, have all signed on the dotted line saying we're doing what we can for cybersecurity, and they've just decided to formalize that with a process. So right now, everyone should be, in all future contracts, being required to upload a score to the Supplier Performance Risk System, the SPRS, which is based on your NIST 800-171. DoD, though, it does expect their new interim rule for CMMC to come out in May 23, which will then enforce implementation of CMMC. So moving away from a simple score in SPRS to actually certifying that you're meeting the number of controls based on your CMMC level, to which there are now 3 under CMMC 2.0. So again, they were looking to protect CUI, controlled unclassified information. Supply chain management is kind of in the news. If anyone is aware of the Target hack that happened along a few years ago to Target. Target wasn't the attack vector. It was the air conditioning team, the HVAC team. That's how they got in and stole all the credit cards from Target, is they broke into the HVAC and then worked their way through into Target. So the DoD understands that while the large big corps have money to spend on cybersecurity, the smaller supply chain may not be doing as well. So they're kind of holding out to everyone now to kind of find a cybersecurity along the way. The requirements are that you need to have a SPRS score, which is based on the 110 controls and 800-171, which means you need to have a system security plan, some policies and procedures, and then a POAM for any actions that you have yet to meet. The big question, what is CUI? It's a great question. I wish I could give you a definitive answer. The most definitive answer is it will be listed in your contract if you are required to handle CUI. The government should mark CUI as CUI. We all, having worked with the government, know they don't always do this well. So it tends to be a moving target. But the idea is to know what is or what should be CUI and then take appropriate controls to protect it. And CUI can come at you in all of these different formats. So NIST 800-171, kind of what is it? You know, what are we doing? There are 14 main domain control sets within NIST 800-171, ranging from access control right through to your system and information integrity. These are all listed here. Each one of these domains has a number of individual controls underneath them. So out of these 14 domains, you'll come up with 110 controls. And that's the goal line. That's what you have to meet. You have to have a policy for every domain. So you need to have a minimum of 14 cyber policies, and you need to have procedures that implement those policies. NIST 800-171, while it is required, it is also a great benchmark for any organization to kind of measure yourself against. There are, again, 110 controls. It monitors your alignment with industry best practices. While some of the controls may seem difficult to meet, a little time and thought, and we will show you that they are not as difficult as one might think, and they don't need to be as scary as everyone seems to worry about when it comes to implementation. Excuse me.
Mike,
before we get here, Tom, you wanted to do a...
Yeah, we're going to take a little poll, and actually just a question I had for you as well. As you pointed out, in each one of those domains, there's several different controls underneath them. They require a policy, a procedure, and then on top of that, they're also going to require, you know, backup evidence to basically support your answer to that control, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So we're going to take and you could go ahead and answer that while we're doing that. I'm going to launch a little poll with the folks that are here to get a sense of, you know, how prepared is your organization today for this, and when you might want to be assured that you are prepared, that you are ready for this.
Yes, the policies that would get provided and that working with SureShield is the policies actually cover each individual control. So it's a very detailed policy document Also, your procedures basically are the implementation. So as we go through the next slide and we talk about the cap, I'm going to explain pretty much exactly how the whole evaluation and process will go when it comes to
Excellent. And we'll go ahead and stop the poll. Thank you, everyone, for answering. It looks like, Mike, about, I would say, 70% of our participants today are less than halfway there. They're halfway or less.
right.
But a very large portion of them want to be there, I would say, within the next 6 months, almost 60%. So we'll talk a little bit later about perhaps how we and Digital Beachhead may be able to help you with that. But let's go ahead and get into what this new process is going to look like, Mike.
Perfect. So recently, the Cyber AB has released their CAP, the CMMC Assessment Process, kind of a 6-step process with variable steps underneath, starting with plan and prepare. So the first thing when you go to become assessed is working with your 3CPAO and finding out who's going to be doing what, who the assessors are, and basically developing your plan of attack for the assessment. One of the big things during the plan and prepare is the scope. And you're going to hear me talk about scope a lot. Scope is critical to this entire process because the scope determines your level of effort, the costing, and what your organization may have to do in order to become certified. So again, I'm going to get more into scope in a bit. So once you've figured out the scope and you know what you're going to be doing, you do the pre-assessment. That's where the 3CPO likes to take your information and look at all your evidence you have, like how they're going to get it to you, how you're going to pass information back and forth, those kinds of things, and then figure out the schedule and your resources. Third, the readiness. This is important because this could be a stopgap. This is a yes, no kind of block. So verifying readiness to conduct the assessment, the 3CPO will give a basic review of where you are at this process and effectively tell you whether they can go or no go, whether it would be worthwhile doing a full assessment. This is important because if you're not prepared, you've already spent money up to this point as part of the contract. And at this point, they could tell you, not right now. And then you have to come back later. So make sure that when you are doing your contracts with your 3CPO, that you don't lose those funds, that it's just maybe a time turnaround, you know. Then you actually get to the conducting of the assessment, where we look at the evidence, see what you have. I refer to this a lot as very much thinking of it as a inspector general inspection. If you've ever been in the military, you know, you come through for the IG inspection and you have your questionnaire and you have to answer the questions. The 3CPO then does a report recommending the results. And if there are POAMs, if there are a few things that maybe you didn't pass, you have some time to fix it. And then finally, they will check those POAMs to see if you finished it and then close out the assessment and give you your pass, no pass recommendation, which they upload to the DIBCAC. And the actual approving authority is the US government, the Department of Defense. So they put all that up into EMAS and you'll get your approval based on the 3CPO recommendation. So it is a pretty straightforward process, but again, it can be arduous. And the most important thing to take out of this slide is preparation is key. The better you are prepared with your evidence, and I highlight that, if you have good evidence and you have your policies in place, this process will go much smoother. So how do we look at it? Our core principles: ease of implementation, your security boundary. Again, where are you being inspected? Your assessment is going to be based on the boundary to which you handle CUI information. So if you don't believe your HR department is going to be having CUI information, maybe they don't need to be a part of your entire CUI. So that is basically the biggest determination, is where is your CUI boundary? What is the scope of this assessment? So knowing how your data is stored and how your data flows is of critical importance. And that's one thing we help you with. That scope is critical. So how do we make it affordable? Well, instead of just saying like, we're going to come in, run through the 110 controls and leave, we like to work with you over the 12-month period to help you get ready. We call it our virtual CSO offering. And a lot of the things that are required in those 110 controls, like cyber awareness training, the vulnerability scans, these are all things we can offer as we help you get prepared for your control sets and passing your certification. We're a small business. We like to support other small businesses. But for the cost and the affordability, it really determines by your scope. You really, really have to think about how do you scope out your network and your infrastructure. Even as a small business, that could be yourself and a laptop, but it's where that data is stored. So it's important. NIST 800-171 is a requirement now. It will continue to be a requirement. CMMC, they kind of modified CMMC so that it no longer has extra or additional control sets added. It is an exact mirror of NIST 800-171. So as you're preparing for NIST 800-171 now, you are working directly towards your compliance with CMMC. So there is no longer a difference or a gap between the two. So the only difference now is with NIST scorecard, you're allowed to have a POAM. As you move to CMMC, the POAM has to be completed within a specific timeline. So what we do, we determine your CUI, where it is, where it needs to be, or even if you have any. And then secondarily, we do the 110 control reviews, and we give you the gap analysis to find out what is missing. Excuse me. So at Digital Beachhead, we do follow the NIST framework, the cybersecurity framework. We help you develop your risk management program. We develop your policies, plans, and procedures. We go through the controls, help you develop your POAM, your system security plan. We can provide you with a SPRS scorecard, so you have that to upload. We basically can help you with any kind of cyber awareness training and phishing. We provide dark web monitoring if that's ever an interest to you. But again, I will reiterate, and I know it seems like a broken record, but the way to any small business to keep this in bounds, affordable, something that you can do and not seem out of control is that boundary. It's a scoping. We really will help you figure out how do you scope out your CUI, if there is any, and where it's at. That is the critical importance. So we like to say the path to cybersecurity begins with a conversation. No two organizations are alike, and that makes these challenges different for everybody. And that's why we like to be adaptable. That's why we like working with SureShield. So that is what we like to offer. And we're glad you're here to start that conversation today. And I look forward to questions you have. But next, I'd like to pass it back over to Tom.
Great. And thanks, Mike. And just for the folks that are on, as Mike said, it does start with the conversation. We will be launching another poll for you, and I will go into that right now. If any of you are interested in a no obligation consultation with the folks from Digital Beachhead to help you in that process, please go ahead and respond to this poll. And as Mike said, where we come in, SureShield is a technology provider that partners with folks like Digital Beachhead to really help try to streamline and make that process even that much more easy and automated. And we do that in 3 different domains. One, that if you're working with the folks of Digital Beachhead, you'll see they utilize a tool called our ComplyShield. And it really is a methodology that helps, I would say, ease and streamline the whole assessment collection process, and components of that get built with that and automated are your POAM, your system security plan. It will automatically calculate your SPRS, your NIST assessment scores to be submitted to the SPRS. And Mike, and it's a continuous readiness tool, meaning that anytime as you're working with it, you'll see that as you are making changes, you'll see the effects that it has on improving your scores. And Mike, this question is just for you. I have heard, at least recently, more and more solicitations that are coming out with the requirement of submitting that score. I've even begun to hear more that they may be looking not just at this, and putting even a little bit more enforcement around having what I might call a semi-good score, right? Because in the past, you could just submit a score if you were at a negative. It wasn't necessary, you were just meeting the compliance requirements. I would envision that they're going to be putting a lot more scrutiny around that score going forward.
That is correct. They've actually increased manpower in the DIBCAC. That's the government audit agency. And they are going to begin doing random audits on those people who've submitted scores to make sure they can back those scores up as we move into CMMC. So again, it's kind of another stopgap as we roll forwards to CMMC and getting certified through an official 3CPAO. They are going to start doing a little auditing.
Excellent.
My guess would be if you have a too high a score is where they would start on their random.
Sure, and saying that they're going to want to see the evidence for that.
Right.
Right. And as I mentioned, with the ComplyShield tool, not only comes with the assessment information and the scoring, but it also provides a medium for all of that evidence collection in areas that eventually they'll be asking for that information. It also ties in for those who need, and this is of course for Digital Beachhead will help you, at least a set of policies and procedure templates that can be started with and customized for your particular organization, as well as the mappings to all those controls. And so they leverage that from a technology standpoint to help in the delivery of their services. Additionally, if there are needs for doing vulnerability scans and remediation processes, we have solutions, and they have solutions available to them that can assist you with that. Again, that is actually one of the requirements of one of the NIST controls as well. So it kind of, I would say, kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So Mike, why don't we get to, I think we're close to the end of the session.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, that would be.
Please, so if folks have questions, I'm keeping the poll open for those of you who would like to have a contact from the folks at Digital Beachhead to start that conversation and see how they might be able to assist you. I was looking, I know that we had a few questions. It looks like they've already been answered, but I'm not sure if everybody can see the answers to the questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to, like James asked if they're having problems getting hold of the Cyber AB. Correct. The Cyber AB is understaffed. They're sometimes slow to get a hold of, get back to you via email. So as Chandy said, sometimes getting a hold of them during a town hall, and asking your questions in the town hall, that pops up. That's a great way. And as far as 3 CPOs not open to new orgs, no, that's gonna be a growing process. Lots of people are gonna be required. Right now, there are not enough 3 CPOs, but also conversely, they're struggling to get those of us that are candidate 3 CPOs fully audited and approved ourselves. So that's why the DIPCAC has updated and added more staff.
Yeah. And I can speak to that as well. Even I've tried to contact folks on a number of issues and have had difficulty getting some getting answers back. So you're not alone in that process.
But if you do have specific questions about the process or procedures or things, we're happy to answer those for you. We have a different kind of direct link as a candidate 3 CPO. We have separate meetings with the board, plus we have 3 CPO kind of update meetings amongst ourselves. So there are other avenues to maybe get your questions answered. And CMMC, NIST 800-171, the same. They are, CMMC is based on NIST 800-171. So NIST is an organization and they don't provide certification. CMMC is just the official way to say that you can become certified.
And then the question about, do you cover M365 Azure and on-prem DC?
Yes, the questions, the 110 controls are exactly the same, regardless of how you manage them. And so it is just the factor of going through those 110 controls and answering the questions and then helping you find that solution, regardless of how you do it. So on-prem, cloud, Azure, however you do it, we are there to do it for you. SPRS is the supply I will grab the actual acronym again for you. It is the
SPRS, I think, is the
Supplier Performance Risk System.
Yes.
Yep. And that is available through the, you can go to SPRS. It's a gov site that links to how you can log in and upload your score, but you have to register to get an SPRS account so that you can upload your score.
And I would highly encourage, and I'm sure you would as well, Mike, if you haven't done that yet and you are a supplier, you really should get that done and get that score submitted.
Exactly. And what are acceptable sources for getting scored? Right now, you are scoring yourselves. However, we have found that some organizations, the scoring is based on 110 controls. And if you don't fully understand what that control means or how that control should be met, it could be difficult to answer. So there are companies that help. We do that. That's what this is, working with SureShield. We go through you with your organization and SureShield's web interface to manage the answers to all those questions. It also allows us to upload your evidence, and it'll provide us that scorecard you need. That was to the anonymous attendee, that answer. Marion, we are not working with DoD. We just need to be NIST 800-171 compliant. We have all the needed documentation. Is that the same process? If you need to be 800-171 compliant, you have all the documentation. It is making sure that that documentation actually meets it. So it's whether you think you have it or having a outside resource look at it. But if you're meeting the 110 controls and you know you're meeting the 110 controls and have the evidence, the processes, and the policies in line, that's really what you're looking for. And Rachel, good question. Does NIST 800-171 go away after CMMC? Well, NIST 800-171 as an instrument won't go away. It'll still be there under NIST. However, whether they're going to require you to upload a NIST 800-171 score is TBD, to be determined. I'm saying if you are level 2, I do not think you will have the need, and CMMC level 2, which means you have to meet 110 controls, there'll be no need for the NIST scorecard. However, if you are going to be CMMC level 1, which means you have to meet 17 of the 110 controls, I'm not sure if they will then say, but please upload the score on the remaining controls. So that's kind of to be determined. So that's a great question and one to be answered. Helen, does Digital Beachhead do the IT monitoring that is required? We can help you with the monitoring. We can either find you a good source of monitoring, or we do have a resource ourselves. We have partners that do the 24/7 monitoring, the SIM. So we can help you with that. We can help you find through your POAM, help you close all those gaps with either ourselves or through partner organizations that we work with. Kevin, does the entire facility need to be physically secured? Physical security is one of the domains. And so the short answer is yes, there needs to be some sort of physical security and monitoring of who comes and goes. A visitor log. Edward, yes, they're going to share the slides. Marion, you're not yet NIST compliant and would like to meet. Yes, we're happy. We're happy to meet with anyone on the call and start the conversation. We very much are into.
And Marianne, if the poll is still open, I'm not sure if you responded to that poll or not, but if so, please do. We'll make note of your name, but please respond that you would like to be contacted, as all of those who have indicated as such will have a follow-up, contact from the folks and representatives from Digital Beachhead. The poll is still open. So for those of you who are still in attendance, if you have not responded, please do. And I think if not, Mike, any last thoughts or comments before we close out the session?
Yeah, I would definitely say, and feel free to ask questions if you still have them. I saw someone put their hand up real quick. Feel free. But I would definitely say, scoping is critical. I know I seem to harp on that, but it is very critical. A lot of folks with our small business networks have a lot of systems that we connect to, HR, payroll, those kind of things that will not be in scope if we can find a way to separate them out. And that's what we're here for, to help you kind of find those boundaries, find that scoping. And make it affordable for small businesses as well. There's a lot of horror stories out there within the CMMC, and that this is coming and it can't be done. We're working with literally companies that have 1 and 2 users, and we're getting them ready for CMMC. So it can happen.
And it can happen cost effectively and affordably as well for you all.
And the product placemat, again, getting ready for CMMC, the Microsoft product placemat gives you a good kind of like roadmap, but it is really about answering your 110 controls. However and wherever, you do that. Jeff, great question. What's the difference between CMMC, NIST, and SOC? I'll start with SOC. SOC 2 compliance is basically for a cloud-based or a infrastructure as a service kind of provider. showing that you provide a level of service. So it is another control set, if you will. NIST is just the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. They create a bunch of standards. The difference between NIST and CMMC, the biggest difference, is NIST is not a certification body or organization. They provide the standards. So what CMMC has done is, as an organization, the Cyber AB, the Cyber Board, has become a certification body, and they are simply using the NIST control set of 800-171 as their baseline for certification. So it is basically just saying, I am using the NIST control sets, but CMMC as an organizational body can give you an actual certification, because they are going to be approved certification body. SOC is a certified body as well, just a different one. But those are all great questions. Are there any other questions?
Any other? We've still got, obviously, we've come up, we've brought you back about 20 minutes so far of your hour. So I hope that's helpful to you, but we will certainly leave it open for another couple of minutes if there's any further questions.
CMMC certs last, I'm sorry, Tom, there's another question. CMMC certs last 3 years. You have to do it every 3 years.
And do you think that they'll be requiring, I'm familiar with this in healthcare, there's a 3-year kind of accreditation, but there's a yearly kind of revalidation, kind of what I would call self-assessment that they're still there. Do you think that there'll be something in between those 3 years?
Right now, they haven't hinted at that, but I'm assuming that probably through the EMAS or the SBRS that's already existing, they may have some sort of, like, nothing has changed.
Gotcha.
But right now they're saying 3 years. You are good for 3 years unless you know you've changed, and then you kind of have to self-identify that there has been a major change.
Excellent. If there's no further questions, I want to thank Mike and the folks from Digital Beachhead for the presentation today. As those who are in attendance can tell, they are very familiar with the process. One of the benefits of working with a team like Mike's is, keep in mind, they're going to be very familiar. They're actually going to be able to conduct the assessments and accredit you. But ideally, you'd like to work with someone who knows what that's going to look like on that other end, where they can help you get prepared and ready for that. They're only, and Mike, correct me, the only thing that you can't do is help someone and do their audit, right?
Correct.
Those have to be independent. But as a C3PAO, you know that they're going to be very familiar with what needs to be required and can help you get ready very quickly.
And we partner with other 3CPAOs because of that fact. So we've kind of created these behind the scenes partnerships. So if I'm helping your organization get ready, I have a 3CPAO organization that can help you with the actual audit. And conversely, I'm helping them do their formal audits for the companies they're helping get ready.
And then there's one last question I'm seeing here. Who do they contact to perform an audit? And I think that's part of the process you were discussing, right, Mike?
That's right. So when you are actually ready and CMMC goes live sometime next year, the Cyber AB has a marketplace that you can choose from to choose a 3CPAO. And you just contact them off of the marketplace, and the market, and it's just like any other contract negotiation. You can have different people give you pricing. There's no standard pricing. So you would go to the Cyber AB marketplace and grab a couple of quotes.
And I see another question coming.
Great question, Stacy. They'll do audits, and they are going to be basically, there is a corrective action period depending on how many controls you fail. So if we look at those 6 steps, step 3 is your first stopgap. Do you move forward or not? Are you ready for the audit? If you have a few controls that need a POAM, that was step 5 and 6, they effectively say, please fill out a quick POAM, tell us what you haven't met, and you'll have a period of time to fix those, but they're probably less than 6 months to fix. And then you can get, that POAM will be revalidated that you've met those controls, and then you can pass.
And it's
So it
my-
isn't just a simple pass-fail.
Sorry, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there are going to be certain controls that will not be allowed to go on a POAM. It's kind of like you're going to have those in place and then the limitation on those that they will accept, like you said, there's going to be a very definitive timeline for correction for those.
That's right, because there's some control sets that they're gonna, I guess we call them poison controls, that if you can't meet those on your first go around, that would cause them to say you're not good yet.
Great. Well, lots of good questions.
Absolutely.
We still have another minute or two. We'll give you just one more minute, and please again go and let us know if you'd like to be contacted. See quite a few that are indicating yes, Mike, and a few that are going to contemplate and perhaps ask to be back, touch base with later. But just as a reminder to all the folks, for those of you who have indicated yes, a representative from Digital Beachhead will be reaching out to you to schedule that consultation meeting. You will receive the content of this as well as the webinar. And with that, we will go ahead and get ready to close the session. Want to thank everybody for participating with us here today. We wish you all the best in the pursuit of your business and helping in any way we can to get you ready for this and make sure that your business is protected today as well. So,
Absolutely.
Mike,
I thank everybody for coming out.
great. And we will be, for those of you who've asked, we'll be back in touch very shortly. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Other